Let's get rid of that. Right, good evening, everybody. It is Tuesday night. It is cheese night, and we have with us tonight, special occasion, the only person we've had all year, and this is the only year we've ever done this, who is not a cheesy. We have a biscuity. Wendy, welcome to Tuesday night. It's Tuesday night in the Academy of Cheese.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Although I may not be a cheesy, I love cheese, which is why I've got the cheese earrings on.
You showed me those just before we started. They are enough to make me want to get my ears pierced. Shows again. Yeah, man. I need. Yeah. I might have to go for a Stilton or something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. If I could get Stilton, I'd have Stilton in one and this in the other.
Oh, love that. Blue and white. Yes, no, I think it would give me a rakish pirate cheese man look. I think it would be very good.
Go for it, Charlie.
Right. Now, I know you. We've known each other a long time, but people may not know you. You are the mistress behind one of the most successful cheese biscuit brands in the UK, if not the most. I don't know. What is there? Is there a tier? Have you got the top of the ladder yet?
Yeah, no, we have done very well, but we're still fairly small. So we're up there in the top 10 in some accounts that we're listed in. But I'd say there's still the really, really big boys are a lot bigger than us. But we're growing.
Yeah, what's that one named after lorries or trucks or cars or something? I can't remember.
And Jacob's Cream Crackers. But I have to say we're giving them a good run for their money in the accounts where we're listed. So thank you. Yeah, we're really happy. We're just a team of 15. So compared to the likes of Pladis, who we're talking about, we're tiny.
And you're completely independent. You are not VC funded like some sort of rocket ship.
No,
just you and Ian.
Well, no, I know. I should explain a little more actually about that. So there's 4 owners of the business originally. So when we started out, Ian and I were both from Cadbury. We'd had big corporate roles, if you like, in supply chain logistics and mere marketing and sales. We'd always wanted to run our own business, though. So we left to set up a Swedish bakery business because Ian's wife is Swedish. She absolutely loves Swedish products and baked goods. So we set off around Sweden looking at other people who were doing it. And in the course of that, we came across somebody who was called Peter. So there is a real Peter. Peter Lindquist, who is Swedish. And he had a beautiful artisan bakery in southern Sweden, wood-fired oven, proper bubbling sourdough and all that. And we spoke to him about Swedish products and would there be a market for it in the UK. And he basically showed us his crisp bread and we just thought they were amazing. So they're handmade out there in Sweden. There's nothing like it in the UK. No. So we just there and then were so excited. So we decided to go into a joint venture with Peter and start making, well, not actually to begin with. We imported his product from Sweden into the UK and went to places like Fortnum's and La Fromagerie and said, do you think these are as good as we think they are?
The little shops down in London, not very important. Start at the bottom, that's what I say, yeah.
But we just asked what they thought and they agreed with us. So we started by importing. Then we knew we wouldn't really make a business if we were importing, so we needed to make them in the UK. So we were introduced to John Lister, who's the owner of Ship to Mill Flour, who also has a bakery that's a craft bakery in London. And he started to make the product for us and loved the brand so much that he then joined the business. So John is a partner in the business, as is Peter. So that's the 4 original founders.
Okay. And when is this? 2000 and
that was 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago. So
we're talking just after the financial crisis here. Quite bold.
It was in the financial crisis actually that we launched the most premium biscuit brand.
It's going to shit. I shall start a biscuit business.
And the most expensive actually because of the ingredients, the most premium product in the market. But thankfully, the British public know their biscuits.
They know their biscuits. Yeah. You can't dip yours in your tea though, so I'm not sure it's the standard British biscuit.
No, not at all. And we just set out saying we know that this actually, it might be called a crisp bread, but actually it goes beautifully with cheese. And it goes beautifully with other things as well, especially our original. But our sort of perfect partnering is with different cheeses.
Because I don't know when I first stopped you in my shop, but they sold straight away. There was never a moment of warming up, if I can put it that way.
Yeah.
And it's curious, we thought of ourselves as having a range, but actually we had a very small number of products in each category sold much better than the rest of the category put together, if you know what I mean. And yours sold well. I mean, I don't want to, there are other great biscuits out there.
Yep.
We sold a lot from the Artisan Biscuit Company and stuff like that. But yours muscled their way in very quickly, if I can put it that way.
That's lovely to hear. I've not heard that. I think part of it is the product sort of speaks for itself when you look through the window. It is an artisan product. It's made properly. It's a sourdough starter that's actually 45 years old because we went to John's Bakery. So we had the benefit of that being a really mature and.
You have to bring that over across the sea, across the North Sea. Subtly sneaking
in a jar, protected.
Yeah.
But we leave it to ferment for 16 hours for every batch. So going back to those big other brands that you were talking about, I can't imagine them having the patience to want to wait 16 hours before each batch is made. But then the product is wobbly. Everything's unique and different. It has the little sort of bubbles that give you a lovely texture.
Now we've got Aldred here, our best selling by far.
Thank you, Rebecca. It is lovely though, because we really haven't pushed it. So I think in the end, it's been word of mouth. It's been listed in super restaurants, served with cheese and British Airways. And in the end, those things are what speaks for the brand more than anything else. But thank you, Rebecca. That's lovely to hear.
Right, let's get the biscuits on the table.
Yeah.
So this is the original. You must have started off with just the one type.
That's the recipe that we started off with in that size, but also in the really big ones that have the hole in the middle that are the traditional.
I love those. They're not entirely practical, but they're bloody cool.
Yeah, they're a nod. I don't know if you know, Charlie. They're a nod to the way in which crisp breads were made in Sweden during the long dark winters. So they'd make it as an alternative to bread, and then hang it on a pole over the fire to keep it dry. So that's why we've kept that tradition going of making the larger ones with the hole. But you're right; these are much more practical for a cheese board, really.
I've just realised a bit of technical issues. I haven't plugged in my computer battery, so keep talking. We'll pretend no one's noticed.
Okay. So let me tell you then. In that case, let me tell everybody about the original. And just to explain, my pack looks different from Charlie's. That's because we've just relaunched with a new pack design, but it's exactly the same recipe, and it's made with rye and fresh organic milk. And honey and wholemeal flour. So it has a slight sweetness from the honey, but also a real maltiness from the rye that comes through. And that can work really well with pretty much any cheese. It's the most versatile biscuit we make. So all the others are designed specifically to go with a cheese. And we've got a pairing wheel, which Charlie can show you later to help people choose which biscuit to have with each cheese. But original goes not just with cheese, it does go with salmon, smoked salmon, pâtés, things like that. But it's really versatile and was named by the Great Taste Award judges as the best biscuit for cheese out there, which we were very flattered about. And I chose today, Charlie asked me to find a couple of cheeses to pair it with. And actually, I just went to my favourite local cheesemaker, Mr. Moyden's. And Beth and Martin Moyden are lovely local Shropshire cheesemakers who make cheese the traditional way. And Martin suggested a cheese which I actually hadn't tried before, which is a Newport 1665, named after the Great Fire of Newport.
You've been talking without me, Wendy. You're a legend.
That's okay.
I've just been my computer turned off. I'm going, right.
I can talk for Shropshire, don't worry.
Okay, you're fantastic. You were just telling about the Great Fire of Newport in 1665.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed, but now I do.
Yeah.
But what's nice is this is a hard cheese, which is actually very nice paired with the original. And it's cold smoked over oak chips at their local butchery, which is also a smokery. So yeah, I chose to try that with our original. I don't know if you tried it, Charlie.
I am about to, but you clearly have been talking about the cheese pairing wheel.
Yeah.
This is coming up in the chat. So Adam is saying you can get hands on a digital copy of the pairing wheel here, but also it's on your website.
That's right. I think he may be linking to our pairing wheel, but yes, it's in the journal. If you go onto our website and you go onto journal and you go kind of 4 layers down, there's a picture of the cheese with pear and honey. And if you click on that,
Google it, it'll come up. It's a very cunning thing. I've been playing with it. So nutty and fruity, and then gives why you want to do that with seeded whole grain sourdough crisp bread. And then you can go with your fresh, which is your charcoal and rice. And tell us what you're doing here, Wendy. What is your thinking? Tell us about the matching philosophy.
I think it's very easy to overwhelm a delicious cheese with the wrong biscuit for cheese. And we set out with all of our crackers to work out what the best pairing would be. So although there are different flavors across all of our crackers, none of them are designed to be the hero. The hero is the cheese that goes on it. And that can either...
When we first chatted, I used the phrase, the biscuit is the straight man. You know,
you did. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. And I was thinking about it today because we're obviously coming on. And this is what you're saying. It's like, the joke is better if you have a straight man. You know, it's just
that's right. That's right. And I'd say the only within here, the only ones which have a slightly stronger hint of flavour are caraway, which is why we've paired it with a pungent.
Give a good caraway down.
Yeah, so that goes really nicely with a fairly strong one. Pink pepper, again, that goes beautifully with something like a goat's cheese. And the other biscuit, which I was going to cover today, which is Spelton fig, that's got lovely whole pieces of fig, and again has a sweetness. Again, we have spelt flour in there and organic milk and sea salt, but the sweetness of it, especially with the fig and the honey, goes really nicely with a blue cheese. A salty.
Q blue cheese, I think, is the answer.
Yeah, so the blue cheese, this really is genuinely one of my favourite blue cheeses ever. It's the Wrekin Blue. It's, again, from Martin Moyden and Beth. And it's creamy and rich and salty. And I just think it's a lovely pairing with the spelt and fig, with the sweetness.
Right, here we go. This is... When I first saw this, I called it Wrekin Blue because I thought that was a cooler name, but it's not Wrekin Blue. It's Wrekin, isn't it?
It's definitely Wrekin. Wrekin is a little local kind of, I don't think you could call it a mountain, a hill near here.
So it's got quite an interesting rind here. Is it going to focus me? So I don't know if you can see that's real topography. There's a natural rind going on there.
Yeah.
And possibly some of the Penicillium Rock 40 is kicking off on the rind as well. So we're getting that breakdown. I don't know if everyone can see that just under the rind as the cheese is softening from the rind effect, but also around the blue itself. The blue has this fermenting effect as well, this ripening effect, which means that you're getting almost 3 different types of textures in this blue.
Yeah, and it's really creamy. I think it's just I used to be a Stilton girl, but I'm not any longer. It's just a little bit overwhelming, where this for me is just a little bit more salty, creamy, subtle. So yeah, it's my favorite go-to blue. If I was doing a cheese board, I would definitely have Wrekin Blue on it.
Expecting it. I've not tasted this cheese for a long time, and I've sort of vaguely forgotten, which is sort of a bit embarrassing. I was expecting a lot more wildness, or perhaps even farmyardiness, and it's not there. It's got a bit of the acidic, and it's got a bit of the salt, as you say, but it's essentially a creamy cheese. Creamy cheese.
Yeah, I love it.
So do they make Shropshire Blue? Because there's a sort of story of Shropshire Blue, that Shropshire Blue has never been anywhere near Shropshire.
Oh, right. Okay. No, I don't know. But Mr. Moyden's is most definitely made in Shropshire.
So going back to your fig and spelt, where's it gone? Over here. So before you say anything, right, I think one of your awesomest strengths is not so much the flavour, it's that. Yeah. That, exactly. At my shop, my best seller was a Gorgonzola Dolce, and yours was the only biscuit that stood up to the the technique. You need it to be still retain its snap and be light and all that kind of thing. We also need a bit of rigidity to say get that cheese out and get it. So we absolutely love dipping in our our Peter's Yard.
Yeah, so I think the other thing I love about this is so you're right, there's the taste, not overwhelming the cheese, being the straight man. There's the texture and the crispness, especially with something like that sort of gooey soft cheese. But then I think there's also the look. I mean, everybody loves a beautiful cheese board, don't they? Cheese looks so fabulous. And we just get a lot of feedback that the look of the product, the fact that nothing is the same because it's a naturally fermented product. You know, it doesn't look identical to the next thing. And so the other thing,
a real hand-cut look to it.
Yeah. So the other thing on the cheese sort of pairing wheel is the idea that you can actually mix and match different colours. So we have, you'll have seen this, but this is our kind of selection box. And that just looks really lovely on a cheese board. Sorry, I'm missing the camera. Because you got different shapes, sizes, colours, but they all have the little bubbles that really sort of show this is a product made with time and care.
It's the same with the cheeses. You know, you want different shapes and colours and topography on your cheese board, because by the time you've got to the cheese board in your meal, you're sitting back, you're having a good time. You know, that little bit of added extra is what it's all about. Oh, look, isn't that cool? Yeah, kind of thing.
So what are your preferences for cheese pairings and crackers?
Well, this is I hope I'm not saying anything too heretical right now, right? Okay. So I'm going to say, I know it's going to sound really weird. I like mine round. So I almost always choose your classic because it's round. I know. Why would that make any difference for me? I don't know. That's the way I like it. But
it's interesting.
When we do the Academy Cheese tasting at level 2, we introduce the concept of mouthfeel, which is somewhere between texture and taste, right? I mean, you can get all technical about it and say, oh, well, it's the way the textures move and change in the mouth during the chew and blah, blah, blah. But bottom line is it's got a foot in both texture and taste camps. You know, it's part of the taste experience. And for me, that's where biscuits have to really deliver. That's the bit that they have to actually say, I'm a biscuit and I've got something to add, if you know what I mean. And I think they need to be distinct from the cheese. You know, if they're a bit soft or whatever, or they meld with the cheese too quickly, their purpose is lost, and you're just detracting from the cheese, which has to do that bit of it. So I like biscuits such as yours, where I can feel the texture in the mouth as a distinct journey. I like the crunch, and I like to hear it in my mouth. So this is what I like. So I like this. I'm not a fan of flavored biscuits. Mildly flavored ones, fine. You know, that's part of the journey through the cheese. But for me, it's all about the texture. It really is. It really is. And that's why I think that you win. I really do.
Thank you. Actually, we do hear people saying that we'd never want to dismiss the competition. It keeps us on our toes. But a lot of the competition is very pasty. You end up with a kind of residue in your mouth that competes with the cheese. Like what you want is a contrast to the cheese.
It's a contrast. It's a companion. It is not supposed to say, move over cheese, I've got something to say. It's, you know, you give it each time. The other flavor that I think that you do really well that I like is that branniness, right? That branny flavor. It's got nothing in common with cheese. You don't ever get bran flavors, that dry toasted note, but very, very dry, very, very bran, which I like as a companion. And the third thing I like about you, I'm sounding quite sycophantic, so I'm quite apologetic for that, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Please carry on.
It's bloody small. I know that sounds weird, but by the time I get to the cheese board, I don't want a mouthful of bread. You know, it's like I'm done. I've already sated myself on my 3 bottles of wine and my starter, my main course, and then my amuse-bouche and all that kind of crud. But I'm in for small amounts of flavour, nicely put, when it comes to the cheese board, if you see what I mean. And your biscuits are light on the tummy, if I can put it that way.
Yeah. The funny thing is we never really make anything of it, but actually they are really light. They're low in calories. That's not because we've made them that. That's just the natural way in which the combination of the ingredients gives you a result. And the what did you say? The branny flavour, that comes from the rye. So the rye flour really gives a branny, malty flavour, which again I think just lends itself really well with cheese.
Do you? I'm going to talk briefly about the competition, although I'm sure this counts as competition. Are you aware of something called the Dorset knob?
No.
Oh, well, it is a real thing. Before you think I'm making it up, by the way. For those people who are watching, please somebody say they've actually tasted a Dorset knob before without the double entendre thing happening. But the Dorset knob is a round, it's like a me bun, okay? It's about that big, and it's like a mini white bun, and they triple break it, and it's down in, the name will come to me, it's like Little Piddlehampton or something like that in South Dorset. And they even have a Dorset knob throwing competition. How far can you throw your knob? So there's a lot of humor to be had there. But they use, in what in my opinion has something in common with yours, which there is no moisture left in their product, as there is not yours. So they would have used it for a holding goodness over to have in the fields or through the winter, or a long lasting. So I can't help feeling there must be something about the way you're cooking this bread. There must have an origin in long keeping.
That's really interesting, because you're right. I mean, the original that you're holding, that has a sort of shelf life that goes on for months and months and months, because it was based on exactly that recipe that hung over the fire throughout the winter. It was your bread, alternative in Sweden, just in the way they preserved salmon and chutneys and jams and things. So yeah, it probably does have some connection. I shall have to Google it after this. I shall look it up.
Yeah, no, I'm just make sure that you put in the right terms, because Dorset knob, I'm sure, can throw up a few interesting results.
My husband might wonder why I'm doing that.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. It's interesting because biscuits, I'm sure they come from the tradition of long-lasting product, because there's so much less moisture than bread. You could argue that biscuits are to bread what cheese is to milk. It's like saying something that you use really quickly, but now I want it to do the winter. And you're now taking it on.
To be honest, we often talk about anything fermented or anything that was sort of set up to preserve things goes really well with our product. So, that could be gravlax or smoked salmon or cheese. They really, because they're made in similar ways for similar purposes, they actually really do their sort of marriages made in heaven. They really work well.
That goes back to this concept of what we in the academy are calling a sort of social terroir. It's not necessarily so much about the physical geography of a place or its climate or its horticulture. It's the fact that what people eat together tastes good together. That happens naturally over generations. You don't sit there as a family or a village or a community or whatever is going, I'm going to continue eating this because it tastes really bad with that, but we've always done it that way. They don't do that. They go, if we made this small change here, and then 3 generations down the time, you have cuisine as we know it, where everything naturally sort of goes together. But that Scandinavian cuisine that you have taken your influences from, they are masters at getting products to taste nice 6 months later.
Absolutely.
It's sort of their whole skill is about that.
I agree. I mean, we're really, really proud that we're a British company. We use British ingredients, but we're always inspired by that original journey and that original story with Peter. And Peter's still on the board. He's still very much involved in the business. And the yard, by the way, Peter's yard, is when we went out to, he's a very cool guy with a beautiful farm in southern Sweden, excuse me. And the back of his property has a gate and a yard looking out into just the natural wilderness. It's so lovely. But the gate that we still use is the gate that his original brand that we saw, it was taken from his friend who drew the gate. So it's rather lovely that, that is a true bit of history. It's not a kind of, I used to work in marketing for a big corporate, and that, you make those things up. We didn't have to make it up. It's real.
You didn't go and pay somebody buying one of those glass doors in a sort of railway arch in London with a very cool long name to do with lemons or something. It was it's just the facts. It came from behind Peter's gate.
Yes, exactly. It did. And is the identical recipe. And it's a recipe that's been used for years and years and years, because it's just so simple and lovely. But I think the one interesting thing that we've been lucky about is that obviously we've grown now. We're still, as I said, a fairly small business, but we're not making by hand any longer, but we're using all of the craft skills that were involved originally. And it's hand baked, so it needs craft bakers to watch the oven, check it doesn't burn. But we have been able to replicate that completely hand-rolled feeling, which actually the product I think is probably a bit better than when it was completely made by hand, because it's just a bit more consistent in terms of the thickness, and therefore it doesn't underbake or overbake. And so,
because I was hearing Tom Calver talk about handmade stuff. Tom, who makes Westcombe cheddar, and he's put in his turning machine, which turns the cheeses. And someone said, "Well, that doesn't really make it handmade anymore." And you go, "You are joking! I'm turning a cheese. There is nothing clever about turning a cheese. In fact, do it as simply as easy as possible. It's a perfectly automatable job." And I do think there's a tension in our industry about where you can do things mechanically or automatically, or however you want to phrase it, and where no, you have to use human judgment or human skill to pull this off to the best effect. And different people come to different conclusions in that space.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Charlie. And we would be being completely fake if we said this is 100% handmade. That rolling bit is such a tedious job for somebody to do day in, day out. This is just a very gentle process that replaces that. But the skilled bit is knowing if it's a warm day, the sourdough might need to ferment for longer or less. The oven may need to be slightly higher or lower. Keeping an eye on the bake, all of those skills that come into a satisfying role for a baker. All of those things are essential to getting this product right.
It's fascinating, isn't it? It's fascinating. And what I find with people who are that skilled is they often are very bad at describing what they do, but they know. So it's very difficult for them to teach it, other than just watch with me, we'll know when it's right. And you're going, and I've sat there and you go, oh, it's just getting right now. I'm going, why? Really? How did you know that? There was we were in Wensleydale watching one of the cheesemakers there. We're in their cheese store, and they just changed the doors into their cheese store. Like, you did come into a store and they blocked that up and have another door just to improve their flow. And the guy was standing there talking about the difference in airflow across his store that he'd noticed. Only he could know that. He had worked in that store. It was a classic sort of Yorkshire moment. Oh, I haven't been there that long. It's 35 years. And no, he's 45. Calling Yorkshire accent. I get that. But it was that being able to see how the molds developed on different shelves is the artisan way, because they know and they feel it and they know how it rolls into flavor and how they affect and that you can't replace.
Yeah, no, I agree. But at least it means now we've got plenty of headroom for further growth. We've got a lovely bakery in North London with all of these skilled guys continuing to work throughout COVID. We never furloughed anybody. We've got an amazing team. So yeah, it's and
last but not least, you've got new branding.
Yeah. I thought it was about time.
I've got an old one. I've got a new one. No, that's not an old one. Where is it? Right, I haven't got an old one.
Yes, you've got a Spelton Fig, I think.
Yes, this is your classic. I don't know what colour you call that, but that sort of orangey was the classic crisp bread. And that way you've got with much more a paler, lighter, almost more summery look, which is fun.
The colour of the band, so all of the recipes are the same colour, so nobody should get muddled. The original is orange, still same colour as it was, but you've got there a Spelton Fig old and a Spelton Fig new.
Okay. I do have a compare and contrast.
Yeah. Oh no, those are both new.
Okay, got it now.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, what we did was we just wanted to make it a little bit more modern, a little bit more clear that we had craft in the making. So the illustrations are done by a lovely painter who we employed. And we have windows at the top and the bottom now, because we think actually the product speaks for itself. And the more we can show people the product, the more it will speak for itself. And so far, it's really brand new onto the shelves. But what we can see on shelf, it just stands out a little better. So you can see it from a bit more of a distance. But hopefully it's an evolution.
I know that you've probably done great things and paid some great people to do great job. I'm not sure it would have made any difference in my shop. People would have just known what it was and put it in their basket without paying too much attention. It's what people want, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah. There was probably a London Arch Bridge in the making of the new pack designs. Yeah.
Well, you need to renew yourself. I mean, the other thing that I'd point, I can't remember what year was it. 2016. You got 3 gold stars. Was it 2016?
We've actually just this year we've got 3 stars for Spelt and Fig, which we're really pleased about. So yeah, we got 3. God, you're testing me now on the date when we got the 3 stars for original. We don't enter our products every year. We think it's, there's a shelf life, so we don't enter them every year. But every single product has got a Great Taste Award.
Great. Yeah, no, I remember tasting it. It was in Gillingham, Dorset, where I tasted it, and I already knew it, and I was just that deep satisfaction going, I know this product. It's that good. It is that good. I was there first. I've already selling this. I knew already,
I absolutely love the fact that you said you and your wife call it your Peter's Yard. I think that's lovely.
Well, it's an absolute favourite. You do send us samples periodically because of you help us with the Academy of Cheese and stuff, and it means that my wife considers herself a rich woman if there's Peter's Yard in the cupboard. So,
well, I must say we're proud to be patrons because I think what you've done with the Academy of Cheese is great, and also what you did to sort of help raise awareness of cheese producers over a very difficult time with COVID was absolutely fabulous. We were proud to be a part of helping with that, and still are.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for your support. And on that very jolly let's all love each other note, thank you very much, Wendy, for coming on and talking about cheese's forever companion, which is a good biscuit, which is good news. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Right, see you. So we're my friend. I've got to make this look seamless. Here we go. Oh yeah. And goodbye. Right, okay. Right. Right, everybody. Thank you very much. Now, Wendy is simply lovely. I don't need to tell you how good her biscuits are because I think some of the comments coming through today means that we are preaching to the converted, everybody. So that was Peter's Yard's biscuits. That was Wendy Wilson Bett. You can see their new packaging in all over the place because everybody has to stock it now. Now, what can I tell you about the Academy of Cheese? We have level 1 course starting next week. We've got a level 2 course online, which is going really well. Sold out January as well, but there are new course dates going up for that next year. I think the next one begins at the end of February, I think. And there are other courses becoming available. So we're pleased. Hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be bums on seats and in-place courses next year, I really hope. Now, what are we looking forward to over the next few weeks? Well, we've got a full schedule going up. Our last TNCN, our last Cheese Night will be, I think, the 17th of December, where we're going to have a little bit of a Christmas party. So we're going to send out, you can buy little Christmas boxes. We're not quite sure what's in them there, but they will be gorgeous. And our good friends at the Fine Cheese Company will help us out with that. And we will just have basically a jolly and tell war stories about COVID and look forward to burning 2020 down to the ground. On that wonderful note, have a wonderful week. Keep eating your cheese, and I will see you next week.